To add color to my ceramics, I'm going to use something called Underglaze. Later, I will paint over it with clear glaze before putting it back in the kiln for a second firing called a glaze firing. After the glaze firing, the ceramic art will be colorful and shiny. If there is glaze left on the bottom of my bowl, when the kiln heats up and melts the glaze, it will stick to the shelf. And now, for painting on the underglaze colors, I will use a larger brush to paint a larger area. The underglaze should be painted on thick. I should be dipping my brush back into the color a lot. I need to paint on 2 coats of color, which means I have to paint each part 2 times. First, I can use a rag to wipe up my mistakes. Here's my second coat. To paint on details, I'm going to use a smaller brush. Here comes the second coat. For medium-sized details, I will be using a medium-sized brush. I'm noticing this red underglaze is very thin, so I think I will need to do 3 coats. Here comes the second coat. Here comes the third coat. Here comes the second coat. For the smallest details, I will use the smallest brush. For this project, I am going to glaze the bottom of my lid. But I will use something called a stilt when it is time to fire it. I just place my lid on top of the stilt. The glaze will stick to the metal points of the stilt and not to the kiln shelf. Be careful not to store the 2 parts touching or it will mess up your glaze. Just store them side by side in your Teams box.